Hello and welcome back to PSD Touch Plus. I'm Martin Perhiniak and this is the last episode of this mini-series called Ready, Set, Actions. In the previous 3 episodes I discussed already how to work with the actions and even how to use the CS6 new feature called Tool Recording. But there is also a couple of features that I wanted to show you which can be used for automated changes. First of all, how to batch rename your files. For this, you will have to use Bridge. So in Bridge, I have all these files with different file names, and I would like to use a similar file name for all of them. So what I'm going to do is select all, Command or Control A, and then go to Tools, Batch Rename. The keyboard shortcut is Command or Control Shift R. So once you select that option, you can specify a file naming rule that you would like to use on all the images. So I'm going to use new file names, change it to text. In this case, I'm going to use it PSD Tuts. And I add this underscore just after PSD Tuts. And here at the bottom, you can already see that the new file name will look like this. So PSD Tuts underscore. And then I have a sequence number here with 1 digit set to 1. If you want to add these features, you can use the minus and plus signs here on the right. So let me just show you. If I click on plus, I can choose whether I want to use text, file extension, so on and so forth. And I need, in this case, a sequence number, and I can set it to 3 digits, and then accordingly it will be 001, or just use 2 digits or 1 digit. Because I know that there are 7 files that will be processed. Here at the bottom I can see that. I need only 1 digit in this case. And I can always start the sequence from 5 if I want to, but in this case, let me just stick to 1. Okay. Now, I can also define the destination folder, so I can rename these files or move them to another folder while renaming them, or keep these files here with the original file names and copy the renamed files into another folder. I'm going to use the first option in this case. And there is also another useful option called Preserve Current File Names in Metadata, which means even though I'm going to add these new file names, I will still keep the original file names in the file's metadata. I prefer to use this option, so I just checked it. And then I click on Rename. By the way, you can always click on Preview, which will show you exactly what the file naming will be. So see from the original file name what will be the renamed version. Okay, so once I'm happy with this, I can click on Rename, and it will be fast and it will go through all these files and rename them. As you can see, we already have them renamed. Even though they are quite big PSD files, it was really fast. And let me just check this first JPEG file. Here in the metadata, we see the file name, and just below that, we see the preserved file name as well. So that was the original file name. I think it is a very clever way to rename lots of files, especially if you work with photographs and you want to rename them quickly. Or if you work with web design, then again you will have lots of separate little image elements like buttons and user interface parts, and you have to rename them quite a lot. So if you have a setting here in the batch rename options, you can just run that action through it, and then it will rename everything for you. Very similarly to batch renaming, you can also batch convert files to different file formats or even resize them with the option called Image Processor. So let me just select all these files here again, go to the Tools menu, choose Photoshop Image Processor. By the way, you can find these options in Photoshop as well, directly in Photoshop, but I prefer to use Bridge to start these features or these options because it's just easier here to select all your files. And as you can see in Photoshop, we get this dialog box where we can specify the file type and also the size if we want to resize these files. So I would like to save it into a JPEG with a quality of 6, for example, and I would like to resize them to fit into a 500 to 500 pixel size. I'm going to click on Run, and Photoshop will open these images one by one, resize them and save them as JPEGs. So let's have a look at now our bridge folder. You will see that we get a JPEG folder, and here we have all the files saved now as JPEG files, and also the file size is set to 500. So it won't be, the longer dimension won't be bigger than 500. So let's just press space and just test it. If I use the arrows and go to the next images, I can see that these images are just fine and they are the same size. Okay, so image processor, great way to quickly convert your files and also resize them if you need to. Now I would like to show you another great option which we have in Bridge. So I select all my files and I go to Tools, Photoshop, Load files into Photoshop layers. This feature is very handy when you want to put lots of images into one Photoshop document. So I have them all selected, then I go to the option and I run it, and you will see that Photoshop will open all these images into one Photoshop document. So now if I turn them on and off one by one, you can see that we have all of them on the same document, and even the layer names are following the original file names. We also have another great option under the file menu here in Photoshop. If you go to scripts, you can use export layers to files. So if you have lots of layers and you want to save them into separate files, with this option you can do that. So let me just click on export layers to files, and as you can see here, we can define the destination, the file name prefix. Also you can choose just to save visible layers, and then you can specify the file type. I'm not going to run this action. I'm sure you can imagine how it works. And there's one more thing I would like to show you in this tutorial. Just quickly go back to Bridge, and that is under Tools, Photoshop, Batch. So Tools, Photoshop, Batch. It will give you another dialog box, quite big dialog box in Photoshop, where you can choose an action that you would like to run on all of these images one by one. So all your saved actions or default actions are here. So you can choose any of them, and then you can specify once again the destination. You want to save them and close them after the action runs, or you want to save them into another folder. This is a great feature if you want to run an action on lots of images, and you can even leave the computer to work if you like, let's say 100 of images, and you have quite a complicated action to run on them. Then just simply select all the images, choose the action and start running it, and then you can choose whether to tell the computer to stop for errors or just simply log the errors into a file, a text file. I usually go for this option. So that means if you have from 100 images one which the action can't work with, then it just simply skips that and runs through all the other images. And you will have that log file which will tell you what was the problem, what was wrong with that file. So that's a quick summary of the automated features apart from actions in Photoshop. But obviously this is not everything, but probably the most useful ones to start with. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and the whole mini-series about actions and automated features. And I hope to see you soon in another tutorial. Bye for now.